Under the same moon, we share the love, embracing the differences like hand in glove. Spreading peace and joy, it's a beautiful sight. Together we shine in each other's light. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world share in love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.
All right, welcome to Watching the World. Thank you for tuning in to the channel. It's great to get together for noon to talk about what's happening in the real world, folks. Yes, indeed. Today, we're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger. As many of you know that follow this channel, in most cases, I travel to cases such as Donald Trump's, and we also had Sean Diddy Combs. And so I go to the court case, I take notes, and I come back and tell you guys. In federal court, they do not allow cameras. So that's a very unique challenge for many people. So I render the service, and I do this at my own dime just to bring back information about the trial so you can hear what's happening with the trial without hearing a lot of salacious activity. All right. I have a relative in the comment section, Thomasina Martin. Thanks for supporting me, because we also have Bordeaux. But anyway, today we're going to discuss Bryan Kohberger. How many of you are familiar with Bryan Kohberger? It's been almost 2 years ago since 4 college students were murdered senselessly in their dorm, in the house. It was a very traumatic case. At that particular time, I had a surgery, so I was going through that case, trying to solve it, figure it out as I was on the mend. Can't believe it's been 2 years already, but we're going to go through the case. I understand that many of you that tune in to the channel for lunch, oftentimes you're at work, you don't get to hear a lot of details about what's in the media. So when I can, I try to bring to you at lunch different reports and different hot clips that are circulating. But for this particular case, we're going to go back in time for 2 years. We're going to look at this case so that you can understand, when I show you today the verdict and how Bryan Kohberger was sentenced, you'll have some sort of history on the trial, because I am aware that not everybody has the time to follow all of these cases, especially these murder cases. We have so many cases to look at. We have cases with celebrities. Now we have all sorts of legal drama with the president of the United States. So to try to make sense of it all, I usually tie it all together so you can see what's happening. So let's get right to Bryan Kohberger. When we get done with Bryan Kohberger, we're going to go into Trump. Yes, indeed. They're saying that Donald Trump is in the Epstein's files. Now, does that mean that he's committed some terrible acts? That's not what it means. That's not in the reports. Now, people are trying to allude to that, but we want to stay on the road of what's true and what's already verified, instead of coming up with some sort of salacious idea of our own. So anyway, let's start with Bryan Kohberger. Okay, Bordeaux says, nice to have Thomasina. Yes, indeed. Let's start with the beginning of the trial that starts with the murder of the 4 teens in Idaho. This is about 2 years ago, folks. Check it out.
And thank you for joining us here on the News at 6. I'm Shira Matsuzawa, and just into the newsroom, we have new details about who is not a suspect in the murders in Moscow. We got a news release from the city of Moscow just a short time ago, minutes ago, in fact, and it's been 5 days since. So, folks, we've gone back 2 years now, and we're going to look at what happened at the moment when these 4 individuals were killed. So we're going back 2 years. 4 University of Idaho students were found dead inside their home just off campus. And let's bring in investigative reporter Morgan Romero, who has been going through that press release, or that news release. Morgan, what have you learned?
Well, first and foremost, Shira, at this time in the investigation, police are saying that the 2 roommates who were home at the time of the attack are not considered to be involved in the crime.
Okay, so I think there was a total of 7 individuals in the house. 4 were killed. 2 were in the basement. They had a lower level apartment. And then, believe it or not, Bryan Kohberger walked past the fourth individual, and maybe he didn't see her, but she's the one that was very keen to identifying his bushy eyebrows. Her life was spared as well. So those three people remained in the house, and the two in the basement. This is who they're talking about. Now, folks, in the chat, we have a lot of bots and we have a lot of trolls or what have you. So in order to comment, we just ask that you subscribe and then share your comments so that we cut back on some of the bots and trolls.
So that was a lot of speculation on social media and a lot of questions that we had. We knew they were home when the attack happened. We also knew that they were home when police got there. Now police saying that they do not believe they're involved in the crime. As we've been previously reporting, they were also not hurt and they are fully cooperating. Also important to note, neither is the young man who was seen with Madison and Kaylee in this Twitch video from the food truck that we showed you on the news at noon and the news at 4. Again, speculation around that as well, that perhaps he was involved in some possible.
So let me give you a little history. I was covering this trial. Like I said, I had surgery at the time. I had nothing better to do, believe me. What happens is when these cases happen, a lot of people on the internet will go and try to solve the case themselves, and they start looking at all the video cameras in close proximity of what happened. So this particular guy, many people on the internet saw him mingling with the girls, and he became a suspect from the standpoint of the internet, not necessarily with the police officers.
Way, but police saying again, at this time in the investigation, they do not believe that he is a suspect or person of interest or involved in the crime. The coroner is also saying that likely all 4 of the victims were asleep. Previously, we said at least some of them were asleep. Now we're saying it's likely all 4 were. There was also no sign of sexual assault. We know Kaylee and Madison took an Uber from this food truck where you're seeing this video from to their house on King Road. Ethan Chapin, one of the victims, we're also learning, did not live at the house at the time. He was just visiting, as we've been previously reporting.
I just want to add, this guy, Bryan Kohberger, he stalked them for a long period of time. In fact, the night that this happened, they were pretty much intoxicated. Most of them were, and I believe they left the back door unlocked to the kitchen. So if you have children in college, you know, it makes your heart really scared for them, knowing that these type of things can happen when you raise your kids and you send them off to college.
He was with Xana Kernodle that night. As part of the investigation, detectives took stuff out of 3 dumpsters on King Road near the house to locate any possible evidence. Detectives also contacted local businesses to determine if a...
Now, what I remember about this case, and I'll be very brief, Bryan, I believe he met one of the girls she was his waitress, perhaps at a restaurant. And that's where he kind of picked up on one of them and started stalking her and then figure out where she lives. To me, it's like terrifying.
Fixed blade knife specifically was bought in the area recently. Moscow Police Chief James Fry says this Twitch video that you're seeing is really helping give them the time and space of where Maddie and Kaylee were leading up to their deaths. We also learned from police in this news release that they sent out, detectives have received about 500 tips. They've interviewed 38 people so far. They're also dispelling a lot of information. I have this press release printed off. They are going through a lot of things that they've been seeing on social media, questions that they've been getting, and they're dispelling some of those rumors as well. And so, as we've been saying this entire time, oftentimes when there's silence in a case like this that has so much...
So for those of you that are just coming in, please hit the like button if you like the material. But what we do, we go through various cases and media to kind of condense it for those that are busy and can't keep track of it. Right now, we're going through Bryan Kohberger. I was supposed to fly out to Idaho to attend the trial, but he took a plea deal, so that is off the table. So I won't be traveling there. But we're going through the history of this trial, and we're starting off from the moment that the 4 college students were killed in Idaho.
Public interest. A lot of people fill that vacuum with speculation and rumors. And so we here at KTVB are really trying to stick to the facts as well. And I think that is a big reason why law enforcement put out this.
Shout out to you, Deborah. Thanks for coming in. Say my name, Mel. Yes, indeed. Deborah is in the building.
This press release this evening after a couple days of not a lot of new information. Yesterday, the coroner's office released the autopsies, and they found all 4 victims were stabbed to death with a knife early Sunday morning. They don't have the exact time that they were stabbed. Police have not found a suspect or suspects. They don't have any people of interest right now. Again, reiterating, they cleared those people they mentioned, the roommates, as well as the boys seen in the video with them. Earlier, police put out a clear picture of the hours before the attack. They released a timeline today and the locations of where all 4 victims were before they were murdered at their home on King Road in Moscow. Take a look.
This horrific attack on 4 college students happened less than a mile from the University of Idaho campus. Sororities and fraternities and their out-of-houses are mostly centralized in this area.
You know what's interesting about this case is that Bryan Kohberger didn't attend the same college. He attended one of the neighboring colleges. Hey, Sharon, thanks for coming in and supporting us as well. Good afternoon to you as well.
New information from Idaho State Police reveals 2 of the victims, Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle, were together Saturday night, November 12th. They went to a Sigma Chi fraternity party across from their home on King Road from 8 to 9 p.m. The other 2 victims, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, were at the Corner Club on Main Street. It's about a mile and a half away from the home on King Road. Police say they were there from around 10 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. After leaving the bar, the girls went to the Grub Truck just down Main Street from the Corner Club. It's about a 6-minute walk. They're seen in a video from the food truck, ordering food around 1:40 Sunday morning. U of I students tell us it's a common weekend routine to go from the Corner Club to the food truck. Idaho State Police says all 4 victims were back at the King Road house, a little more than a mile from the food truck, by 1:45 a.m. Sunday, November 13th. What unfolded after that is unclear. It wasn't until noon on Sunday police received a call of an unconscious person. When they got to the home on King Road, they found the 4 victims, Ethan, Xana, Kaylee, and Maddie, dead. They confirm all 4 were stabbed early Sunday morning. The Latah County coroner tells us all the victims could have been killed with the same knife or a very similar knife. Police say they haven't yet found the weapon.
So for all the people coming in, this is the case that happened in Idaho about 2 years ago where 4 college kids were murdered by Bryan Kohberger, who was recently, as of this week, sentenced. And before we get to the actual point of his sentencing, we're just going back through the trial to give those who may be unfamiliar with it just a little insight of what we're covering.
And we're also learning through this press release that the identity of the 911 caller has not been released at this time. We will continue to work towards finding that information. Also, just into the newsroom, the Alumni Relations Organization emailed Vandal alum this evening saying that along with more police presence on campus and in the town of Moscow, the University of Idaho brought on a private security firm to beef up the regular campus security team. And also, any student, employee, or visitor can get a security escort on campus day or night if they're choosing to be there, if they're either waiting until tonight.
When this happened, a lot of parents pulled their teenage kids out of school, or their kids in general out of that school, until they figured out what was happening with this big-time murder in Idaho.
Night to go home, or this weekend, or if they're staying throughout fall break because they can't come home. And again, just to reiterate, police saying they have not identified a person of interest or a suspect yet, but they want anyone near these areas who saw anything suspicious, has any surveillance video, ring cameras perhaps, or can provide any information to call the tip line. That number is right there on your screen. That's 208-883-7180. They also have an email set up. You can email tipline@ci.moscow.id.us. And I also want to point out some information that they released too. They really laid out in this press release from the Moscow Police Department, Shira, all of the resources that they have. You know, we know Idaho State Police is there. We know the Federal Bureau of Investigation is there. We know Latah County Sheriff's Office is helping out. And the FBI actually has 2 behavioral analysis units. So we'd reported that we knew they were there. That really helps police with interviewing techniques to kind of create a profile of an unknown suspect. And it just really beefs up these crime scenes. They have Idaho State Police alone has 20 investigators, and FBI has 22 investigators. So they're really trying to help with those local law enforcement agencies there who are just really working around the clock to try to solve this crime.
Right, a lot of resources going into this, and although we're getting more information now, there's still so much that we still don't know. And
yes.
So it's important for folks, anyone who has information, to reach out and so they can follow up those tips.
Absolutely.
All right, Morgan Romero, thank you for joining us.
You bet.
Okay, so now we're going to take a look at the point when Bryan Kohberger is actually arrested. It gives you more details of how they were able to find out it was him, in fact, and he had actually traveled close to where I live out here on the East Coast, all the way from Idaho back to his parents' house where he was arrested. Deborah says, I was surprised at his age, so much rage in his youth. Yes, indeed. Thanks, Deborah.
Idaho students. Bryan Kohberger, of course, is awaiting a preliminary hearing. That has been set for June in the state of Idaho. We're learning more now about his arrest in Pennsylvania. He was taken into custody at his parents' home in Pennsylvania. And yesterday, the Monroe County Assistant District Attorney, Michael Mancuso, shared
That's a picture of his parents' home where he was arrested.
More about what Kohberger was allegedly doing in that time with BRC TV 13. Take a listen.
Mr. Kohberger was found awake in the kitchen area, dressed in shorts and a shirt and wearing latex medical type gloves, and apparently was taking his personal trash and putting it into separate Ziploc baggies.
Another development. While prosecutors have not announced that they are going to pursue the death penalty in the quadruple murder case, a judge has granted the defense request for a death penalty qualified attorney to join.
And just so you know, just glancing forward, they did decide that he qualified for the death penalty, and they were setting him up basically for a firing squad. And that's when he took the plea deal, because even though he took lives, it appeared that he was afraid to die himself. Isn't that something?
Join his legal team. You can see where this obviously is going. Still with us in Columbia, South Carolina, former prosecutor and SLED agent Tommy Pope.
Now, just giving you a little background, I could be slightly wrong, but I think this is how it all went down. He left a knife sheath by the body of one of the girls on the second floor, I believe, or no, the third floor, where she was deceased. And it had a speck of his blood on it. And they ran the blood. They could not identify whoever's blood it was, right? So then they use, now this is just my investigation, they use a service like 23andMe to find out whose blood or who possible blood this could be. And so when they were able to narrow it down, they started to look at his dad. Now, meanwhile, his dad came from Pennsylvania all the way out to Idaho to help Bryan drive back to Pennsylvania. And that's how they basically, the police were on their trail. They went into the trash and they received some DNA from the father. And that's when they compared it, I believe, and it really tied it down to Bryan Kohberger. So it goes to show that when it comes to 23andMe and a lot of the history, you know, you're trying to figure out your, you know, your family and all these other concepts you may be getting at. Well, the police often use these to solve cases as well, especially like 23andMe. I often hear about those on some of these detective cases.
And in New York, trial attorney Bruce Rosenberg, innocent until proven guilty, but every day seems to be another bit of information that piles on to making it look like they might have the right guy here after all of this. Tommy, what's your take on this investigation, what it's yielded, and then this latest bit where they come barreling into the house in the wee hours and there's the guy with his gloves going through his trash into little baggies?
I've always been a prosecutor. I've never done defense work, but first thing I think the defense is looking for today is somebody to testify that that was the cleanest guy they ever knew and always took care of his trash. And but I'm not sure you're going to see that. I was thinking about the death penalty component too. You know, as this case builds, you know, for me making the death penalty decision, again using Murdaugh as an example, because it was circumstantial, it wasn't the nature of the crime. It was the fact that, you know, you don't want to push a jury too far. But if they have good, tight evidence, if the DNA comes back that matches the buccal swab and the snap on the knife and all that, I think there's a decent chance you see the death penalty come to play if they feel like, you know, they're really, really solid on the guilt phase of having their man.
Yeah, and you know, there's so much we don't know yet in terms of what came back in those search warrants, Bruce. They took apart that vehicle, the white sedan, and if there is any DNA of those victims in that thing, we're talking case closed most likely. What is your take on?
So I can confirm that even though 4 people were basically stabbed to death, when they checked his vehicle for DNA, I believe they did not find anything. So it's quite interesting. How did he get all of this accomplished and not leave a lot of DNA in his vehicle?
The new information that we heard from this prosecutor in Pennsylvania, that he was up at 2, 3 in the morning and he's handling his garbage with latex gloves.
It's quite interesting, Ted. I mean, I think the timing there is is quite interesting. I think I read somewhere that it was at 1:30 or 2 in the morning as opposed to later in the morning. Typically, it's my understanding that arrests take place early in the morning, but not that early in the morning. I think that, as Tom said, hey, fastidious. This guy, maybe he's the cleanest guy in the world. Maybe he had a reason that he didn't want his personal items to be mixed.
Believe it or not, Bryan Kohberger was actually in college studying criminal justice. He understood crime scenes. He was basically very versed in these type of matters. So when they went to arrest him at 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was, he was putting his trash, his personal trash. Now, mind you, he's at his parents' house in Pennsylvania. He's putting his trash, his regular trash, into Ziploc bags because apparently he knew that the police were on the trail.
Up with his parents' personal items. I can't say that it looks that good, but people, have their own interesting complexities, OCD, other complexes that make people act in the manner they do. This just could be part of his personality. Without more, it's hard to say. On the other hand, somebody wanting to hide or not provide DNA so that he can't be identified or connected to the evidence at the murder scene is also a possibility. So we're going to have to wait and see with bated breath what the DNA evidence turns out to be.
Yeah, and again, in that prelim, we should find out a lot in June. We learned so much from that probable cause affidavit that was released in terms of what investigators did to get to that point. And Tommy, with your experience as a SLED agent, I mean, reading that must have been something for you, because they really did have, out of the gate, they had the sheath with a little DNA on it, but it didn't hit initially, that match. And so then it was this video canvassing, the DNA combined, and then the cell towers. What did you think overall? I mean, a lot of people were bagging this investigation as it was dragging on.
Some of the local neighbors had cameras, ring cameras, positioned around the neighborhood. It was a very compact neighborhood, a lot of houses, and they were able to see his vehicle, a white vehicle, sedan, driving to and from the scene, and that played a big part in identifying this Bryan Kohberger.
Even some family members were raising their eyebrows. Now, at this point, what did you think, as a former investigator, about the way they handled this?
Again, we get numb from watching TV all the time, but I thought it was very impressive that they were able to track him down across the country. We had a case one time, the guy killed his parents.
So this is the front of the house here. He, from what they understand, he never went in and out of this door. At this lower level is where the two ladies that preserved their lives were living. But Bryan came in through the back door, did what he did, and left back out the same door.
It's headed up the East Coast, and we were able to recover the murder weapons.
And just so you know, they tore this house down completely because of what happened there.
And everything from a dumpster halfway up the interstate because of quick action by law enforcement. So sometimes on the outside, we think they're dragging their feet, or, we're second guessing. And as you alluded to earlier, I think Bruce said, there's reasons we can't always know everything publicly, so law enforcement can piece it together. So it sounds to me like they got their man and they're working hard, and I'm sure they'll continue to do so.
Yeah, innocent until proven guilty. The judge also clarified the gag order in this case, ordering, yes, the attorneys from either side, as well as attorneys for any witness, cannot give any information to the media regarding Kohberger's pending trial. But in regards to witnesses, she said this: she is not ordering clients, i.e. witnesses, not to talk to the media, but stressed this case should be not tried in the media, but in the court of law. It is a ruling that the family of victim Kaylee Gonzalez appears to appreciate. They released this statement commenting on the gag order not applying to them, thanking the media for keeping the story alive. They said in part, "We firmly believe it was the coverage by the media of the victims' families, numerous witnesses, and undeniable evidence that led to an arrest in this case." When you have a case of this magnitude, Bruce, everybody is on on high alert, involved in it, including the judge, including this, especially the prosecutors, because you don't want to fumble this thing and you don't want something odd to happen, especially given what we know. How does the fact that the entire world is fascinated beyond belief by these horrible crimes and how this could happen, how does that change the way people do their daily business in terms of progressing now to preliminary hearing and then trial?
Well, I think that the information outside can affect the jury. I think that media coverage, discussions, the internet.
Okay, so One Love says, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. If that's true, I did not hear about Hulk Hogan passing away.
All provide instant information to people all around the world. And I think the interest in the case is because of the graphic nature and the horror of it. And I think the judge is correct in being concerned about what is said, to whom it's said, and when it's said, because you don't want to affect the jurors who are considering the evidence in the case and the judges.
Oh, thank you very much, One Love. Hulk Hogan just passed away. Breaking news, I guess, at 71 years of age. Wow, I had not heard about that. He died of cardiac arrest. Wow, thank you for breaking that to us, One Love. Hulk Hogan has passed away. Man, I've been a big fan of Hulk Hogan my entire life. Growing up, watching wrestling, man, that is something. Thank you so much for breaking that.
Absolutely correct in saying the case really needs to be tried in a court of law and not in a court of public opinion, because, as Tom said, we don't know everything yet. We haven't seen all the evidence. We don't know what's going to come out yet, and the defendant is entitled to be presumed innocent until found guilty. So we have to wait and see. And so I respect the judge's ruling to want to keep communication and commentary to a minimum.
Yeah, and again.
Okay, so now we're going to see the actual sentencing of Bryan Kohberger that occurred this week.
Morning hours of November 13, 2022, a faceless coward breached the tranquility of 6 beautiful young people and senselessly slaughtered them, 4 of them. Who committed this unspeakable evil was unknown for several weeks, but due to the killer's incompetence and outstanding police work by numerous local, state, and federal law enforcement agencies, the person that slithered through that sliding glass door at 1122 King Road now stands before the world and this court unmasked. This unfathomable and senseless act of evil has caused immeasurable pain and loss. No parent should ever have to bury their child. This is the greatest tragedy that can be inflicted upon a person. Parents who took their children took.
So, guys, we're covering Bryan Kohberger, who took the life of 4 college students out in Idaho about 2 years ago. Simultaneously, we have breaking news that Hulk Hogan has passed away at the age of 71. He had cardiac arrest. Deborah says she saw Hulk Hogan Christmas shopping at the mall before. Thanks for that input, Deborah.
College in a truck filled with moving boxes, had to bring them home in hearses lined with coffins. The loss this killer inflicted was not just the death of these people's children, siblings, grandchildren, as we've heard today. It has ripped a hole in their soul, destroying a special part of their very essence. Any person who is a parent defines themselves foremost as such. It is their existence and purpose of being. And it has been stolen from these parents. None of us have experienced the loss these victims have in the unspeakable way that they have. And therefore, none of us can, nor should we, question the way in which they have handled their loss. Whether that be in
I don't know if you really followed this case, but it appeared that he had some fascination with his professor, And I guess he was trying to, in some weird way, show that he could pull off this whole event and not get caught. And he took the lives of these beautiful individuals. It goes to show in your environment, you have to be careful who you're dealing with. You never know who has these sick and twisted thoughts in their head.
Private mourning removed as far as possible from this media circus, or in front of a camera demanding retribution with the loudest megaphone. I've listened intently to the stories and pain that have been shared today, with great awe at the courage and resilience of the surviving family members of those wonderful children. I've listened also to the surviving roommates, both in person and through their friends. And I can't think of how, frankly, courageous they have been despite the hell that they have faced by uncaring people who have come up with all kinds of crazy theories about two kids simply being kids. The parents, siblings, and other family members who have spoken today are designated as victims in our legal system. But going forward, I hope that they can shed that label, as it gives too much power to the evil that condemned them to that role. They are and should be known as survivors, fighters, and foremost as witnesses to the tremendous lives of value and unbounded promise of these four young people. But those speaking today and those who did not speak, but who carry this same burden, this same loss, now carry forward the memories of these now perpetually young people, these forever children. These survivors carry the responsibility of ensuring that the voices of these children, Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan, are never forgotten, and the positive impacts that they have had on so many lives are never minimized, and that the love they shared, the light that they shined onto others, is forever celebrated. As we sit here today, this case is ending, and we are now certain who committed these unspeakable acts of evil, but we don't know, and what we may never know is why. I share.
Now, keep in mind, folks, Bryan Kohberger, who you see sitting to the right, he was facing the firing squad, and he chose to take a plea deal because he was afraid to die. I would imagine that's one of the dominant reasons. So he went in and carelessly took the lives of four college students, but yet he's afraid to die himself.
The desire expressed by others to understand the why. But upon reflection, it seems to me, and this is...
One Love says, remember, and again, One Love, shout out to you for breaking the news about Hulk Hogan, who passed away at 71 from cardiac arrest. We've taken some heavy hits this week as far as people that we've lost that we're quite familiar with because we saw them so much growing up. One Love says, remember the unalivers who took the picture with Mike Tyson after taking many lives. Someone has to inform Mike who he was. So you're right, Mel. You don't know who you're next to. Exactly. You never know. It's scary out here, especially when you have children and family members. You have so many people to be concerned about, and especially in college, right? It's something to think about. One Love says he was the third. Okay, thank you.
Just my own opinion, that by continuing to focus on why, we continue to give Mr. Kohberger relevance. We give him agency and we give him power. The need to know what is inherently not understandable makes us dependent upon the defendant to provide us with a reason, and that gives him the spotlight, the attention, and the power he appears to crave. Yet even if I could force him to speak, which legally I cannot, how could anyone ever be assured that what he speaks is the truth? Do we really believe, after all of this, he's capable of speaking the truth or of giving up something of himself to help the very people whose lives he destroyed? Rather, I suspect the so-called reason would be dished out in enticing, self-serving, and aggrandizing, untruthful bits, leaving people wanting more information, more insight, and thus enhancing even further the power he seeks to hold. Even if we could get truthful insight into his why, I suspected would not in any way quench one's thirst for actually understanding why in the first instance. Because there is no reason for these crimes that could approach anything resembling rationality. No conceivable reason could make any sense. And in the end, the more we struggle to seek explanation for the unexplainable, the more we try to extract a reason, the more power and control we give to him.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to Donald Trump. And I'm going to cover a video that shows that Donald Trump is actually in the Epstein files, and the Department of Justice let Donald Trump know that he was in the files all the way back in May. In fact, I believe Elon Musk left in, I think it was May 28th. And prior to that, Donald Trump was made aware that he's in the Epstein files. Now, does that mean that he's done some of the despicable things that we see as far as the young people? Well, no, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but a lot of people are somewhat trying to come to that conclusion. I'll let you find your own way with that thought. But let's get into how the Department of Justice revealed to Donald Trump that he's a big part. So Elon Musk was right when it comes to Donald Trump being in the Epstein files. Let's have at it.
Appearing in the Epstein files. Today, explosive new reporting rocking the political world. According to the Wall Street Journal, the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is in the Epstein files. It comes as Trump, who previously helped stoke Epstein conspiracy theories.
Now, keep in mind, how many of you in the audience, if you could just put a 1 in the chat, how many of you are aware that Donald Trump and also Pam Bondi both revealed, and I covered it on this channel, that there were no lists, folks, no list at all. And now we're back to having a list, and guess who's in it? Guess who's the man of the hour? Donald Trump.
Suddenly tries to tamp down questions about that guy. The Journal reports, quote, when Justice Department officials reviewed what Attorney General Pam Bondi called a truckload of documents related to Jeffrey Epstein earlier this year, they discovered that Donald Trump's name appeared multiple times, according to senior administration officials. In May, Bondi and her deputy informed the president at a meeting in the White House that his name was in the Epstein files, the officials said. Many other high-profile figures were also named, Trump was told. Being mentioned in the files, in the records, isn't a sign of wrongdoing. It's new context for Bondi's claims about potentially revealing documents, including the ever-elusive client list. Here's what she said in February and March, weeks before reportedly.
So why do you think we have this discrepancy about these files? Do you think there's more there, or do you think, what do you think? It's fascinating to see how they sit at the highest level in the government, and it's quite obvious they're not being totally honest with us. Now, remember, Elon Musk, One Love says Elon Musk has photos with Ghislaine Maxwell as well. Okay, I haven't seen those photos. One Love says 3 meals a day and a free bed for our dime. Yes, indeed. You're referring back to the Kohberger case. We had to move on from that case. It's just too sad, too sad. But anyway, getting into Trump, what do you think the issue is here, why the president is not necessarily being totally honest about this? And it's quite shocking when you see some of his biggest supporters like Alex Jones, of all people, Tucker Carlson, all of these big time, I call them big time MAGA guys, and they're really digging in their heels about Donald Trump. And they're saying that he is a part of this big cover up, right? One of the things that people say about MAGA is that it's a cult, right? And Epstein is at the center of that cult because they really want to know what was in these files. Who would think that the man who ran for president, folks, the man who ran on the Epstein files was actually sitting in the files? It's kind of disrespectful, right? One Love says with 34 felonies, I'm sure they would have Nick Trump if they knew. Okay, very good. And Deborah says respectfully guilt. Okay, let's see what's happening.
Informing Trump his name was in the files.
the DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now. A lot of flight.
Okay, so the files were sitting on her desk. Now keep that in mind, folks, as you put together your investigation. Where are the files? It was right on Pam Bondi's desk.
Logs, a lot of names, a lot of information, but it's pretty sick what that man did. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. America get the full Epstein files.
That's what Bondi was saying before the DOJ released a memo in July that poured cold water all over talk of a client list and theories about Epstein's death. That memo caused an uproar and led to Trump getting hammered with questions, including...
You see the partying going on in the background. Allegedly, you see the president involved. It appears to be young girls, but we can't confirm the ages, but you can only come to your own conclusion. And there is the president with Epstein, so he cannot really deny knowing Epstein. But again, we can only follow what we have as facts.
A direct question about what Bondi told him.
The Attorney General briefed you on the DOJ and FBI review, the findings of that review. The Attorney General briefed you on that.
What?
On the DOJ and FBI review.
On what subject?
Epstein, on Epstein, of the review of the files. Attorney General Pam Bondi briefed you on that.
Very quick briefing.
Did she tell you, what did she tell you about the review? And specifically, did she tell you at all that your name of...
So they're talking about back in May when Donald Trump was briefed about the Epstein files, and they're asking him, hey, listen, did Pam Bondi tell you that you're in the Epstein files? And notice Donald Trump's answer. You can't believe this stuff.
No,
she's given us just a very quick briefing.
The Journal reports the DOJ...
Okay, so Donald Trump says, oh, she just gave us a very brief, quick briefing, right? But now the Wall Street Journal came out yesterday, we covered it last night, and said that it was more than just a quick briefing. They actually told Donald Trump that he is the man of the hour. He sits inside of the Epstein files, not just once, but in several cases.
They told Trump in May, quote, it didn't plan to release any more documents related to Epstein because other material contained child pornography and victims' personal information. Trump reportedly didn't object. Now the White House is calling the Journal's report, quote, another fake news story. The Journal also reporting, quote, FBI Director Kash Patel has privately told other government officials that Trump's name appeared in the files, according to people close to the administration.
Now, remember Kash Patel, right? The leading director. He was one of the prominent individuals saying, hey, we have to get to these files. We're going to release these files. We're going to show the world. We're going to show the deep state is terrible people and they're doing things to children. And then when he had a chance to see the man that installed him into office, well, he took a different tune, folks.
On the Journal's recent reporting about that strange and, quote, bawdy birthday message Trump allegedly wrote to Epstein. Trump is, of course, suing over that reporting. It bears repeating. The big news tonight.
It seems that the Wall Street Journal is dropping back-to-back hammers on Donald Trump. In fact, he's suing them in regards to that picture. Remember, they released this picture. They didn't release the picture, but they described the picture. So they're getting sued. And then yesterday, and they didn't care. They came back with more incriminating thoughts about Donald Trump being on the list. One Love says, interestingly enough, the cell that Epstein was in all have 2 cameras in the cell. Yep, I heard that. I've confirmed that. The inmates usually cover them to use the bathroom. Okay, they are not telling us the truth. There's also, One Love, there's a camera that faces outside and catches everyone entering and coming out of a cell. We did not see that. Instead, they showed us a camera on the 2nd level, which really shows you hardly anything at all. In fact, I saw the video. I even showed it on this channel. But when they bring Epstein down the stairs, you can't really tell if it's really Epstein or not. It could be, but I'm just saying.
President of the United States' name reportedly appearing multiple times in documents related to convicted child predator Jeffrey Epstein. So ahead this hour, I'll talk live with Reverend Al Sharpton and Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. But We are going to start with Emily Bazelon, legal writer with the New York Times Magazine, and Catherine Christian, NBC News and MSNBC legal analyst and former assistant district attorney with the Manhattan DA's office. Thank you both for being here with me this evening. So we understand that his name being in these files does not necessarily mean that a crime has been committed here. And I think for some, this may not even be surprising.
So again, that was my point. Just because his name is in the file does not mean that a crime necessarily has been committed.
Surprising, because we've known that he's in flight logs. We know that Epstein reportedly had multiple phone numbers for Donald Trump.
Now, I'm not sure the average person believe that, but I'm just making a statement.
And for other members of the family. But what's sort of striking to me is that he was just asked a week ago by a reporter, did Bondi tell you this? What did you know? And it appears he may have lied. Catherine, how significant is all of this to you?
He lied or he forgot. It's significant.
So either Donald Trump forgot or he lied when they asked him about the same thing a week ago. And I covered it here on the channel. That's a beautiful thing. We're covering so much that when these facts come out, we get to see the discrepancies. But apparently, what is it that the president, why is he hedging on releasing information? And then when the Wall Street Journal come out with these alleged facts or what have you, then it makes them look bad.
Well, first, again, just because your name appears in the file, that does not mean you've committed a criminal activity. But we would need to know the context. I'm sure there were search warrants executed during this investigation. So did they get the flight logs, guest lists? Did his name appear on a guest list? Is his name on other birthday cards? The Wall Street Journal said he was given a birthday. He left a birthday message for Mr. Epstein. So it'll be interesting to see how his name appears multiple times on what document.
All right. Eric is in the building. Thank you, Eric, for coming through. He says, good afternoon to Bordeaux, you, and also to me, too. Thank you, Eric. We always like having you.
Do they appear? And many of those documents may not have been grand jury secret documents that were been obtained to subpoena. It could have been a witness interview, which certainly is not going to be confidential unless there were like a victim's name there. So it'd be interesting to know how President Trump's name is in these files.
Emily, what questions has all this raised for you and the timeline?
Last night, we released in one of the videos how Donald Trump, the Department of Justice, is telling for the judge, right, putting the burden on the judge to release the transcripts, right, in regards to the jury, right? However, the judge came back this morning and shot it down. And basically, from what we saw last night, right, they were expecting that to happen anyway. So this is all, seems like one big setup, a setup for failure.
Here, I mean, this is sort of a problem of their own creation. They're the ones that released a memo saying nothing to see here, folks, only weeks ago. So how?
One Love says, I'm sure we all know someone that went to jail. Doesn't mean we were involved with what they were doing. Plus, remember, they raided Trump's home. And also, someone brought up a good point. Probably no validity to it. But remember the documents that they found at Donald Trump's house. And then they brought on a big whole legal ramifications because of the documents. People were actually asking, you know, were any of these documents pertaining to Epstein? But I think at the time they stated that these were documents related perhaps to war in other countries. But hey, it's a valid question. Thank you, Eric. He's selling. Please like everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
How shocked are you by this latest development, this new reporting from the Wall Street Journal?
Well, I agree with Catherine. It's not that surprising in the sense that we know that Epstein and Trump were friends. They spent time together, including, it seems, in the period of time that the indictment covers. Another question I have is whether the fact that Trump's name is in these documents, and we don't know how, or the context, relates to the Justice Department's decision not to release more of these files. Was that something that was on Pam Bondi's mind? Was she trying to protect the president in making that decision? And that seems like an especially important question to ask because Trump has, in so many ways, blasted on by the usual protections of the independence of the Justice Department from the president, right? He doesn't believe in that kind of independence. He is making it clear he's the one calling the shots. And so you want to know how all of that adds up.
Did he direct her not to disclose any further information?
We know that Senator Dick Durbin already authored a letter alleging that basically a whistleblower had informed his office that she had directed people to spend time around the clock looking specifically for Trump's name in the files that she had access to. And then, just in this one section of the Wall Street Journal's reporting, the meeting set the stage for the high-profile review to come to an end. So in a way, at least the timeline, it raises all those suspicions you just spelled out there, Emily. I'm curious for you, Catherine. We now know, too, that Ghislaine Maxwell's been subpoenaed officially. There's sort of efforts to hear more from her now on several fronts.
So Pam Bondi has showed her complete loyalty to the president, but when it comes to the Department of Justice, you can't expect them to operate separately from him, because she basically showed it because of her stance. She knew that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files, but instead came back to tell the American people, hey, guess what? There's no files at all. There's no there. It's just a nothing burger. Can you imagine that? So who can you really trust now? If you can't really trust the words that are coming from individuals that are in government, it becomes a big problem, because we know we can't trust the media. In most cases, they send you on a wild goose chase, right? Now, as far as Ghislaine Maxwell, as you know, the Department of Justice is going to be meeting with her. Do you guys think she's going to get a deal and walk free? What do you think?
What do you think we could realistically learn from her? She did not seek a plea deal first time around. Would she have new information now?
We would expect her to say nothing unless she were granted full immunity by Congress, which apparently
a lot of people think that's what she's going for.
They're not going to do. And if I'm a lawyer of a defendant in her situation, I'd say, unless you're getting immunity, you keep your mouth shut. Because remember, she has an appeal pending. So she's not going to do anything to harm that appeal. When Epstein was alive, the Southern District could have used her as a cooperator, could have perhaps had her flip against him, and then promised her a lower sentence. Once he died, there was nothing that she could give them. So she was an equal co-defendant, and she was tried. But I don't see her speaking unless she got full immunity. And why would you give full immunity to someone who's been convicted of such horrible crimes, trafficking, child sex abuse, for sex abuse purposes?
So Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for 20 years based on these files and list, or whatever you want to call it. Now they say there's no list, no file. So they're like, well, maybe she'll get a deal to leave. But now they've turned it again and say there is a file and the president is on it. This is so confusing. One Love says, yes, last minute pardon if she say I didn't see anything. Interesting.
Why would you pardon someone who is convicted of such horrible crimes?
Emily, how do you think Trump's base is going to process this? They kind of rejected the Wall Street Journal's report around this birthday letter. We saw almost within like 2-3 minutes, people starting to tweet and respond saying, this doesn't sound like Trump. I don't think he ever draws pictures, that kind of thing. What do you know of how they are?
Deborah says, it's certainly interesting watching this reality government. Yes, like reality TV, with Bondi and Rubio joining their fiasco. You never really see Rubio saying much of anything.
Going to process this latest information? And do you think that this could really create an actual break, a crack in his loyal following? You're already kind of laughing right now.
No, I mean, I'm not laughing. The approval ratings among Republicans of Trump's handling of the Epstein files have already dropped. So I think we are already seeing some impact from this. I wonder if one difference between this news piece of information and the drawing is that the drawing nobody has seen. The Wall Street Journal described it, but it isn't in our heads as an image that is in public view. Maybe that made it easier to dismiss. This reporting, which other news organizations are already matching, is coming from inside the Trump administration, saying that he didn't disclose that he'd been told these facts. And it raises these questions about that you were just asking, who directed this, who controlled it. Those questions about direction and control are so much a part of the kind of larger conspiracy theorizing around the Epstein case. It all kind of feeds on itself, one might think. And there is terrible wrongdoing at the heart of this criminal matter.
Catherine, could some of what it appears this administration knew and did not publicly share impact Trump's lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for that first report?
Well, it will certainly help the Wall Street Journal, and in their defense, that the fact that the Wall Street Journal has once again.
Okay, so finally, we're going to take a look at one final video. How does Donald Trump feel about all of this that's happening? Well, what is his approach? He blames Barack Obama. Let's take a look at it.
Know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 of the election. They tried to rig the election and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know?
So they were asking Donald Trump in regards to Epstein and all of the fuss that's going on, and he turns the table to Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016.
Okay, One Love says they actually have the documents to support the Obama claim. I have a copy of them. Okay, thank you for that insight.
And in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the thing.
Do you think, Bordeaux, that he's going to be prosecuted? Or is it even possible for him to be prosecuted?
Things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about that, Mr. President? Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard has submitted a criminal referral to the Department of Justice. From your perspective, who should the...
I think it could be a distraction. Remember, the Supreme Court came through and said that anything done basically while the president is in office is official duty, right? So how can they actually make a big deal and prosecute Barack Obama? Hillary Clinton might be a different story, but at least Barack Obama was president at the time, correct?
DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures?
Okay, ACB, thanks for joining. We appreciate your comments. He says Obama's domestic terrorist cult is done. They're out of here. They're no more. Thank you for your comment. One Love says, yes, he can be prosecuted. Okay, give us some insight. Break that down in light of the ruling that came down from the Supreme Court in regards to Donald Trump when they were putting the heat on him. Bordeaux says, oh, it's very hard to tell. Good point.
The Obama administration.
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it. And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was there. Brennan, they were all there.
Now, remember, I covered Sean Diddy Combs' trial. James Comey's daughter, Maureen Comey, was the lead prosecutor of the 6 ladies that were coming after Diddy and put him on trial, what have you. When she was let go, fired, dismissed, whichever way you want to see it, it was stated that Donald Trump did not want a Comey working in the department. So now that you hear Donald Trump talking about Comey, we might get some sort of insight as to why Maureen Comey was let go.
There, in a room, right here. This was the room. This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults. They were in there for 100 years. This is much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do. But you know what? If you look...
Okay, one love, great point, solid point. Only if it's related to war, he is protected. Okay, so as far as the ruling, it would have to be related to war. Okay, so I see your interpretation and how you think Barack Obama could be prosecuted.
Look at those papers. They have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was.
I woke up this morning on Facebook and everybody's saying, oh, Barack Obama's going to jail, going to prison. He's going to be prosecuted. So that's the big hype that everybody's talking about in connection that's stemming from what Donald Trump is saying here.
It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama, Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him? And except for the fact.
You got to get that Hussein in. Guys, I dropped the link. If anybody would like to come up and have sharing the discussion, feel free to do so now. I'd love to hear from you to see your thoughts in regards to Donald Trump, or if you want to go back and talk about something that occurred with the Bryan Kohberger case that we covered initially.
That he gets shielded by the press for his entire life. That's the one they... Look, he's guilty. It's not a question. You know, I like to say... let's give it time. It's there. He's guilty. This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate.
As I said before, I attended Donald Trump's trial here in New York City in the Southern District. 100 Central Place is where the trial took place at. Donald Trump would walk past me each day, really tall guy. You know, he was sleeping most of the day. I sat not too far behind him for his trial. It was just a long, drawn-out process. But I will say that in the end, he was charged with 34 felonies and went on to become the president of the United States. Now, you know, as a felon, you cannot vote, but you can have plenty of felonies and be the president of the United States, folks. Isn't that amazing? What a great standard. However, when you really think about what could happen in this particular case with Barack Obama, I do not think Donald Trump is going to waste time and drag it on like they did with him. I think that Donald Trump is going to push the gas to the metal, the pedal to the metal, and really come after these people. So we might see some very strange things happen because Donald Trump is not going to play around with it, whether you like it or not. Bordeaux says, welcome, please click the link to chat on the panel with Mel. All right, be presentable, show our face on the camera, and be respectful with your words if you join the panel. Thank you so much. Fadis Karma says, crazy how the biggest criminals in the country show up with government plates, private security, and nice suits. Yes, indeed. Thank you for your point. It's nice to have you here. Seem to be a new face. But if you're coming back, welcome back to you. I look forward to seeing more of your comments and interactions. In fact, thank you to you. All right.
Escaped the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So
One Love says he has 1 year to get it done before the elections. Okay, it's almost end of the lunch hour, so I'm going to wrap this up, guys.
President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill.
Okay, perfect timing. All right. Fates Karma says, oh, and for the dude who ended the life of those students, they didn't get a choice to live or die. Why does he? Yeah, because he was able to take that deal, that plea deal. It's amazing. He went in there and snuffed out the lives of 4 individuals. Probably would have taken more if he could have, right? I'm telling you, you don't know who you're interacting with in public, and sometimes even they were in their bed. Can you imagine that? They were in their bed. They were sleeping when a monster came in, something that we often hear about, but in this case, it turned out to be a true story. So great point to you, Fates. I really like that. Great expression. Okay, guys, so that's it for today for the lunch hour. We will be back tonight. Tonight's show will be at 8 p.m. We have some great things in store. We're actually going to break down a lot of the depositions that Jeffrey Epstein had, and where he talked about, he actually answered whether Donald Trump was involved in some of these things. So we'll get a chance to take a look at it. We'll see Jeffrey Epstein's response to various questions. We also get to take a look into a lot of the new videos that have come out that are quite damning in regards to the president. Now, we don't take a serious position on his guilt. In the video we just saw, President Donald Trump says that Barack Obama, he's guilty as charged. Send him away. He don't need a trial, right? Well, we don't take that approach. We try to follow the facts, and we don't jump into that pot of salacious talk to say, yeah, the president must have did A and B because we have C and D. It doesn't quite work that way if you want to be legitimate, because like I said, when I go to some of these trials, one thing, including I went to Donald Trump's trial, the things that I heard prior to trial, when you go to trial and the facts come out, it's not the same, folks. And even one thing that I learned as far as the media sitting in court in some of these cases, they walk away and they tell you incorrect information just to get a click or get a buzz. Fate's Karma says, mine, sorry, I'm listening while working. Okay. All right. I'm not sure. Okay. Wondering about the email. Okay. So one love. If you're asking about my email, Bordo, could you please put the email in the chat? Feel free to reach out, guys. If you'd like to come up or ever come and express yourself, feel free to do so. Thank you for all the people that came through. Last night, we had 49,000 people come through. Very exciting times, folks. Please hit the like if you could, share. We're growing, and great news is on the way. I might get a shot at reporting from the White House. I'm working on it. I'm in the whole process that they put out for YouTubers. So the world is starting to recognize people on the YouTube world just as much as they're recognizing big media. I think everybody has a lane, but a key component is those likes and people interacting. So I thank each and every one of you for doing that. Yes, indeed, one love. We had 49,000 people come through last night. It's a beautiful thing. So maybe tonight we'll top it, but if not, if there's only one or two people, then we're gonna get to the point. We're gonna get to the bottom of it either way. But we appreciate the crowd. We appreciate everybody all, and we'll see you tonight at 8 o'clock. Indeed. Until then, be safe, and we'll catch you then. Thank you.
Different voices, but the same song. Living a world where we all belong. Kindness leading the way, breaking the chains. In the symphony of love, the thing remains. Embracing diversity, brighter days in sight. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. Colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might. Watching the world sharing love and light. Hearts beating as one in our peaceful flight. The colors of harmony, painting the night. United we stand in love's pure might.